Cara Maria Sorbello, a name that has been synonymous with the MTV's challenge for quite a while now. We've seen Cara embrace the hardships and obstacles of the game where it led to much success. At one point, Cara was the face of the challenge, being one of the most skilled and experienced cast members on the show, as well as being prominently featured on promotional items. She has put together quite the career so far on the challenge, going from unlikely competitor to scrappy underdog, and then to become the first solo winner. But after season 34, Cara Maria would take an indefinite leave of absence from the show. Conspiracy theories have circled her hiatus, ranging between failed psych tests to people claiming she's blacklisted from the challenge. What is the truth? How did someone who had such an impact on the challenge and described as a GOAT of the game in a docu-series made by MTV not even get called to talk in her own segment of the docu-series and deemed a villain at one point by fans and possibly by production? To get the full scope of the situation, we need to go back to learn about Cara Maria. Cara Maria Sorbello is from Methuen, Massachusetts, which is about 30 miles from Boston. Cara Maria was an only child, never was much into sports, but loved riding horses and making art. Cara Maria finished high school, went to Angelcake College, a private university where she graduated with a BA in psychology, bolstering a 3.8 GPA. In interviews, Cara mentioned that while in college, there was a moment where she applied to be on The Real World. On the Challenge Mania podcast in particular, she tells a story of her friends being too fixated by a particular real-world episode while trying to talk with them. So that day, she went to MTV.com to put in an application on the reasoning that if she's on The Real World, that her friends will pay attention to what she has to say then.
Whatever, I was like, well, if they're not gonna pay attention to me, I'm gonna make them. And it was like a joke. I went home, I went to MTV.com, I went to casting, I scrolled down the bottom, I was like, oh, Real World, okay, click. And it said Real World casting is closed. And I was like, whatever, I'll just submit my crap anyways. And I submitted about 3 pictures and like 3 sentences. And I was like, I'm an only child, I love horses, I drive a stick shift, blah. That's it.
Unfortunately, the casting process for The Real World was closed at the time, but she applied anyways. On the podcast episode, she stated she did it mainly as a joke, and there was no way that they would call her. But then MTV called and wanted to meet Cara Maria for her to be on one of their shows. Not The Real World, but the Bad Girls Club. Cara Maria knew that wasn't going to be the show for her, but she went to meet up with the MTV representatives anyways. She felt that at least they could meet her, get to know her, and hopefully get her on a different MTV show. After the meeting with MTV and whom she deems Boston's finest,
I ended up going. I'm surrounded at a table by these girls and like, yo, my daddy abandoned me when I was like 10, and then I slept on the streets, and I've been, putting a in a mouth for the $5. I was just surrounded by Boston's finest anyways.
She was contacted again by MTV, who was interested in possibly getting Cara on either Real World Cancun or Real World DC, but that ultimately didn't happen. It's at this time I would like to turn your attention over to Cara's Model Mayhem profile, which has been a valuable treasure trove of information for Cara's early life and work before the challenge. According to the page, she joined the modeling agency circa 2006. In her profile, Cara Maria describes herself as an independent professional model where she's been modeling in and out of the Boston area for several years at the time of writing the bio, as well as getting into some of her modeling credits, saying she's walked in numerous fashion shows, worked many promotions/parties for companies, and have represented Coors Light, Budweiser, Barstool Sports Magazine, and Maxim, just to name a few. Her resume is well filled out from print, runway, digital, and film work. The earliest credit looks to be around 2004 to 2005. Cara Maria's modeling resume is really impressive, especially pre the challenge Cara. She was on multiple calendar shoots, runway shows, featured in music videos, movies such as 21 and Porky's Pimpin' Pee-wee. Going back to the Challenge Mania podcast episode, Cara Maria said that around 2009 she moved out to California. While getting modeling and small acting gigs, Cara's more stable job was working at what she says is a fetish bar.
I moved to LA, totally got into my rock and roll lifestyle. I was working at a fetish bar. I was dressing in leather. I thought I was a vampire pirate. And they call me and they're like, we want to do an interview with you. And I'm like, again? The next day they're like, you're cast for the fresh meat. And I was like, what is that? And then cue Life Now, and somehow they kept calling me back.
This time, MTV wanted Cara Maria to film for MTV's The Challenge Fresh Meat 2. The Challenge was debuting its 19th season called Fresh Meat 2. This was a sequel to the 12th season entitled Fresh Meat that premiered 4 years prior, where on the season, Challenge veterans would be paired up with completely new contestants who had not previously appeared on an MTV show. Season 12 was a big hit with allowing strong veterans to compete against each other while getting the rookies' feet wet. It also led to some new players getting screen time, where some would go on to become champions and icons themselves. The Challenge was hoping to have similar success this go around, with Fresh Meat 2 looking for some big personalities before the show entered its 20th season and beyond. Fresh Meat 2 began with a special episode 0 called Meet the Meat, focusing solely on the 13 rookies and getting a chance to learn more about them. This is where we are introduced to a 23-year-old Cara Maria Sorbello from Methuen, Massachusetts.
Cara Maria, I'm 23 years old and I'm from Methuen, Massachusetts. You would look at me and think that I'm the party girl. I'm the one that's gonna get crazy and drunk and naked, but they'll see. You can't judge a book by its cover.
First impressions, one could see Cara is a bit quiet, more reserved compared to some of her other Fresh Meat cast members. But it's when we see her compete in the Combine is where Cara gets to shine. In the Fresh Meat Combine, the competitors had to do various tasks such as pull-ups, vertical leap, 40-yard dash, and a challenge-made mini obstacle course. Cara Maria showed she had natural athletic ability, as we've heard her say to MTV and in other interviews years later after season 19 that she never really exercised outside of riding horses back then. Cara Maria surprised everyone as she got the most pull-ups and ran the fastest 40 on the women's side of the competition. She tied for third on the vertical leap. Her obstacle course time left much to be desired, but at least she finished. Now, in the edit, we really only saw 4 competitions, but they put these rookies to work, making them do the shuttle run, 3-cone drill, bench press, and a broad jump as well. Luckily, we can see all of Cara's stats listed in a frame during the first episode. Despite putting up decent numbers, you can tell Cara doesn't have the most confidence in herself. Well, maybe she would gain more confidence being the #1 picked rookie and being partnered up with a 4-time champion in Darrell Taylor.
Yeah, I want to pick Cara Marie.
I love you.
Wait. This moment isn't as straightforward as the edit might make it seem. Rumors surrounded the #1 draft pick, with many saying Darrell actually didn't pick Cara Maria first, but instead picked Laurel. But because of production having to reset a camera, they had to reshoot the scene, where during the reshoot, Darrell switched his pick to Cara Maria instead. This rumor was proven true by Cara, confirming that Darrell indeed changed his pick.
Big rumor was that Darrell picked Laurel at first, and then they redid it and picked you.
No, it's not a rumor. It's what actually happened. He said because our stats were pretty comparable and he wanted to pick her, but he said if there's ever anything where you have to hold your partner over something or carry, he wanted somebody smaller. Like, I was just easier. On paper, we were pretty comparable.
As mentioned, Darrell is a 4-time challenge champion, with one of his wins coming in the original Fresh Meat back in 2006 with his partner Aviv. During the season 12 finals, the men had to carry their partners for a stretch of time. Darrell saw Cara's stats and her stature, thinking if at some point he had to hold his partner for a portion of the finals or a daily challenge, that Cara Maria was the best person to pick. Now, it can be very valuable to have such a successful and decorated player like Darrell as your partner, but it can also be the biggest target on your back. Wes and Kenny made a pact to not target each other and instead turn their efforts into taking out Darrell as soon as possible. Like I mentioned earlier, Darrell won Fresh Meat Season 12. Two other people who competed against him on Fresh Meat was Wes and Kenny. They knew Darrell was a major threat, but also Wes and Darrell had butted heads in the previous season in Season 18, The Ruins, where they almost came to blows. If they could have found the front door. Kenny and Laurel won the first daily challenge, getting to send anyone they wanted into exile. Their choice was none other than Cara and Darrell. Wes used his pool in the house to send the tough team of Pete and Jill into the elimination in hopes they would be able to send the well-decorated champ home, which they did. Cara exited Fresh Meat 2 in the first episode, thinking that she'd never get another chance at competing on the challenge ever again. However, Cara Maria would not have to wait long to get another opportunity to compete on the challenge, as she was back for the next season, Season 20, Cutthroat. Cutthroat was unique in the sense that it was the first time the challenge would be ran in 3 teams. To add to the chaos, there was a twist that the last place finishers in the race to the gulag would be picking the teams. The rookie Camilla would be picking for the red team, Siobhan would pick for the gray team, and Emily Fitzpatrick would pick for the blue team. Cara Maria was the first pick in season 19, but this season she was picked in the 8th round, the second to last woman picked, right after Mandy, but before Katie. Cara found herself on the gray team with fellow Fresh Me 2 alum Luke, Vinny, and Laurel, as well as 2 rookies in Aya and JD. This was Sarah's 3rd season, and this was Dan's 2nd after debuting on the island. As we can see, this was a very young gray team with not much to their resumes up to that point. The major bright spot for the gray team was Abram, a 2-time challenge champ who was willing to step up as the leader. Night 1, Cara found herself attracted to Abram, who had a mutual attraction to Cara Maria. They helped paint each other's faces and were deemed weirdos.
Love at first sight over here. These 2 weird bastards have found each other.
As the season progressed, Cara and Abram's relationship would grow stronger and stronger. It was pretty evident to the house that Cara and Abram had fallen for each other, which caused some dissension within the gray team. On the season, the gray team was pretty dominant in all aspects leading up to the finals. They won 5 of 9 daily challenges. However, even with winning so much, it was anything but smooth sailing for them.
You are a JV player that I feel is going into a final. You want to know why I'm angry? That's why, because I have to share that money with you. I am ready. I'm in the final with you, aren't I?
In episode 7, Laurel and Sarah, who had struck up a friendship on the season, wanted Cara Maria to be sent into the elimination on the basis she was clearly the weakest member on the team. Abram thought it was unfair for Cara to be sent into the gulag again, since she already was sent into the elimination back in episode 2. He felt to keep the team strong, send in a strong player who has the best chances of winning and returning to the team. Abram wanted Laurel to go into the elimination. Laurel and Sarah thought that this was Abram showing favoritism to Cara Maria, as he wouldn't want to lose his bed buddy. And Abram confirms that that had a part in his decision making of not wanting Cara to go into an elimination.
Cara Maria's cute, and she's way more fun than the other girl. Of course, that plays into my decision, man.
Laurel would be the one voted into the elimination by her team, where she would win against Camilla in Die Hard. The gray team showed cracks, and this decision basically cemented them. They would be a team divided moving forward, but that wouldn't stop them from going on a 2 daily winning streak to finish off the regular part of the season heading into the finals. The gray team started out as the team of misfits, now was going into the finals with the most members and looking like the team to beat. Cara Maria had a huge comeback in her sophomore season compared to her first season. Once out first, now on her way to the finals. But the finals is where the gray team would be hit with the most adversity. While running the finals, both Abram and Sarah would start to slow down. Abram couldn't talk. He became sluggish and started to vomit. During the Cutthroat reunion, Luke mentioned that Abram didn't eat anything and didn't drink any water the morning of the finals, which led to his condition.
It was when Abe forgot to drink and eat that morning.
Sarah would show the same side effects, where both Abram and Sarah would be pulled from the finals and taken to get medical help. This hurt the gray team's chances immensely, opening the door for the red team to go on to win the finals, where the gray team would come in 2nd place. Cara Maria had a pretty good season. I mean, yes, she made it much further compared to her previous season, but she showed different aspects of herself with her winning an elimination on the season. She was vulnerable finding love with fellow teammate Abram. She stuck up for herself, confronting her biggest critic up to that point, who was Laurel, and went the distance, getting 2nd place, all in her 2nd season. Cara Maria would be back for her 3rd season in season 21, Rivals. As the season title suggests, players would be paired up with a rival to run the season with. Cara Maria would be paired up with none other than Laurel. I mean, Laurel and Cara had a rivalry dating back to the first few minutes of Fresh Meat 2's first episode, and since then have been in lockstep. Both Laurel and Cara were not well liked in the house. Laurel was seen as being abrasive, aggressive, and harsh, while Cara was looked at as annoying and bothersome to the whole house. Cara and Laurel's partnership wasn't smooth to start off the season.
Problem right now is Laurel. I'm not looking to be her best friend. I'm just looking for, like, talk to me.
They got last place in episode 3, sending them directly into the elimination. Evelyn and Paula would in turn lobby for a strong team of Teresa and Camilla to be voted in against them, based on the math that 2 strong teams go into elimination where only 1 strong team comes back. Their campaigning worked, where we saw the 2 teams face off against each other in the door jam elimination, with Cara and Laurel winning. Now, it's not ideal to be seeing an elimination early in a challenge season, but I feel this helped get Cara and Laurel on track with each other.
I think this jungle was couples therapy.
As their teamwork and bond would get better with each passing episode. However, with Cara Maria, if she wasn't fighting with her partner, she was fighting with the rest of the house. Jen and Mandy would have their own annoyances with Cara Maria, especially with Cara making it known she found it frustrating that Jen and Mandy were never considered to be voted into an elimination.
We're just sitting pretty.
You think that you earned a spot here?
Jen had a ton of friends in the game at that point, where her problems became everyone else's. Regularly, Tyler would come to Jen's defenses, as well as Wes, Paula, and even CT.
Don't kick your boyfriend's ass. Hashtag kick your boyfriend's a little pop.
If Abram was here,
I put him in my back pocket.
you, CT!
Cara would call her boyfriend Abe for guidance and motivation, which helped Cara to stick up for herself and stand her ground to the house.
DQ and got your stupid self in there yourself. You're just looking for an easy way to get rid of me. It's not gonna happen.
We'll just give you a couple more drinks and do it yourself.
Cara Maria and Laura would win 1 daily challenge on the season and face off in 2 eliminations on their way to another finals appearance. The challenge would throw a few more curveballs to the competitors late in the game. Rivals marks the first destination finals in which the competitors would leave the location they had competed in the whole season and get on a plane to go to Argentina. In Argentina, Cara would get bullied some more, where one night Wes would dump a whole 2 liters of cola on Cara's head. No one but her partner Laurel came to her defenses. Just how far they came from just a season ago, once enemies forced together on the gray team, here now Laurel is the one ready to tear anyone's head off for messing with Cara. Or, you know, Laurel would have been protecting Cara since Cara's performance directly affects how much money both women would make at the end of the season. No matter the reason, it was growth that both Laurel and Cara had mended whatever was in the way of their potential friendship, and now they had become allies. Cara even showed her own confidence and personal growth when she stood up for herself and called out Wes the day before the finals.
You want me to make you cry?
Try to make me cry, Wes.
Extremely immature.
You poured an entire bottle of cola all over me, and you're saying I'm immature.
Yes.
Perfect.
Once in the finals, it was clear Laurel and Cara were the second best team, as Jen and Mandy got disqualified before day 1 was even done. It became a 2-team race on the women's side, and despite Cara and Laurel keeping it close, Evelyn and Paula were just a force. Now, it needs to be mentioned that this was the first multi-day final in challenge history. Again, over the 2 days, Cara and Laurel fought hard, but ultimately came in second place, walking away with $50,000.
In the end, I came out with a great friend. I'm proud of us.
But that wasn't all Cara Maria was gaining at the end of the season. It felt Cara was ending the season with more self-assurance and more resilience than we had ever seen from her before. Cara Maria was growing in front of us, but still had quite a ways to go before becoming a challenge champion. Cara Maria and Abram had been in a pretty complicated relationship leading up to 2011, and after Rivals wrapped up, Cara Maria learned about Abram's arrest during his book tour. Cara said in an interview with iFelicious.com that challenge producers even hid letters from her written by Abram when he mentioned his arrest and everything surrounding it. Their relationship was a roller coaster, going from high highs to very low lows. Add in distance into the mix with everything I just mentioned, and Cara thought it was best for the two to split up at that time. But then again, MTV had different plans, bringing the two together for Battle of the Exes. This was such a weird season for Cara Maria because she ended on such a high note in Rivals, but in Battle of the Exes, one could see Cara was going through some inner turmoil that demolished all of that progress. This was the first season Abram and Cara were featured on together since Cutthroat, and how different this season was compared to how they were with each other back in season 20. Just 2 seasons prior, Abram was Cara's rock, her safe place. The house was against Cara, but Abram was there to have her back. In X's, it was actually the opposite. Cara came off back-to-back finals appearances, but as Cara's challenge career was blossoming, Abe's was coming to a close. There isn't that big of an age gap between Abram and Cara, but the expectations and how players viewed the game when each had started on the challenge were vastly different. Abram made his challenge debut on the 7th season entitled The Gauntlet. He was viewed as a physically strong and very erratic player for the Road Rules team. He had a friendship and a mini rivalry with Mike the Miz, where when given the chance to face off against each other, Abram wanted to take his shot, and he lost to the Miz in the knock your block off elimination. I think it's important to note the differences of when both players started on the challenge because MTV, and really the world, was a much different environment for both. When Abram started on the show, it wasn't looked at as a viable career. It was more viewed as a vacation with a chance to compete and make some money at the same time. By the time Abram was on Battle of the X's, he had been on 7 seasons, was a 4-time finalist, and a 2-time champ. We knew Abram had a business outside the challenge because on the island, he asked to be voted off to help save it. What I'm saying is Abram wanted to play the game straight up, and if somehow he lost in the elimination, so be it. There's more to life than this game. Cara Maria, on the other hand, was just finding her footing. She had been to 2 finals, got 2 second-place finishes, and she was becoming a reoccurring character. She had a lot of momentum on her side. I think one scene that depicts how these two were on such different pages is when the house is having a water fight. Cara in the moment is seen having a great time with everyone, while Abram is sitting by himself drawing. Then in another moment, Cara Maria looks reluctant to stay with Abram while everyone else is having a blast.
What you doing, Cara Maria?
Forget it.
Sorry, I'm listening.
Abram came into the season to get answers, a clear direction of his and Cara's relationship. Are we for real breaking up, or are we going to try to make things work? While Cara's intent for coming onto the season was to win. The challenge is already a stressful place, but adding relationship decisions and struggles makes things really difficult. You can tell there is an emotional war raging on within Cara Maria from episode to episode. She is either pushing Abram away, to then asking him to move in with her, to then the next day be unsure if that was the right decision. Both were frustrated going through this.
All of this, can we just let it go for right now?
No. What's holding you back?
I don't know.
This season should have been joyous, as this was a season Cara wasn't being thrown into eliminations early. Her and Abram weren't really on anyone's radar, and they were doing just enough in daily challenges that they weren't coming in last place. But that changed in episode 5, where halfway through the season, Cara and Abe did finish in last place, giving them a one-way ticket to the elimination. They would face off against the young, tough team of Emily and Ty. Cara and Abram would be out-muscled and go on to lose. Now, this season could be seen as a failure, but this season was actually really important in the growth of Cara Maria's challenge trajectory. In a podcast interview, Cara talked about this X-Battle elimination against Emily as a huge motivator to start working out, lifting, and doing CrossFit to work on her physicality.
The thing that really kicked my ass into gear was where this CrossFit girl, I had to wrestle a pole away from her. She basically just suplexed me like I was nothing. I'm like, she does CrossFit, maybe I should try that. Like, I started working out, I tried CrossFit, I started kickboxing, like I just got in better and better shape.
I talked about Cara's natural athleticism back in her first season, but now she was going to focus on her strength, knowing this could separate her from the pack. Cara would find herself in a tough spot coming into her 5th challenge season, Battle of the Seasons 2012. A season she wasn't originally supposed to compete in. Team Fresh Meat, made up of Cara Maria, Brandon, Big Easy, and Camilla, came into the game late. If you see Cara's jersey, you notice that there is tape with her name on it. It's rumored that instead of Team Fresh Meat, that Team Key West was going to compete on the show. Then when that fell through, Team Fresh Meat was formed. But Cara still wasn't originally cast for Team Fresh Meat.
I think I actually got cast for one of them, and they made me jerseys and everything. I don't even remember what it was.
I heard it was Battle of the Seasons because it was a fresh meat team, right? And then Cara Maria had your jersey on.
Yeah, that's what I heard. They had to put like a bumper sticker on it or something. I was ready to go, and they just ended up last minute. Maybe Cara wasn't able to go at first, and then last minute they just switched it. So I'm guessing that's what happened.
That ultimately didn't happen, where Cara was now on the squad. A fresh meat squad that didn't resemble a team at all. They stunk at daily challenges. Their communication was atrocious. They constantly fought with each other. Team Fresh Meat was a mess. On top of their poor performances, a rookie uprising was happening where the overwhelming rookie cast members wanted to take out all the vets as soon as possible. If Team Fresh Meat wasn't coming in last place to be sent directly into eliminations, they were being sent in by the power teams. Both Team Fresh Meat and Team Austin had the most vet numbers of any team on the season, and they were on the top of everyone's hit list. In episode 1, Cara Maria and Big Easy found themselves in the first hall brawl in challenge history, going up against Wes and Lacey from Team Austin. Cara and Big Easy took care of business. Cara used this elimination to prove to everyone that she came into the game to win and to show off the progress she made working out outside the game. Also, she helped take out the guy that was so against her in past seasons. That had to feel good. That good feeling wouldn't last long on the season, not with this Fresh Meat team. In episode 2, Fresh Meat didn't get last place, which is a step in the right direction, but they would be thrown in by the power team of Team San Diego. There was no trust on Team Fresh Meat, and no one wanted to go in. Cara and Big Easy had just seen an elimination. But with Brandon's past challenge season history in Cutthroat and early exits in his other 2 seasons, he didn't want to take the risk of seeing an elimination. And Camilla didn't want to go in, worried to leave the season as an early boot after winning in X's. Team Fresh Meat couldn't come up with nominees from their team by the time they reached the arena, where Team San Diego got to pick who were to face off against Danny and Melinda. They chose Camilla and Eric, who would win, completely wiping out Team Austin from the game. Team Fresh Meat was back to their losing ways in episode 3, getting last place in the Hook, Line, and Sinker Daily Challenge. And again, they couldn't come up with who to nominate from their team, leaving the decision to Team Las Vegas. Cara and Brandon were picked to go against Chet and Sarah in the first ever not-so-fast elimination in challenge history, where Cara and Brandon would end up losing. It was a disappointing end, but it was also probably the best, as it wouldn't have gotten any better for Cara and Team Fresh Meat on the season.
Fresh Meat's now Eric and Camilla. Cara, how do you think they're going to perform now?
Cara would finally get a season off as the challenge was premiering its 24th season, Rivals 2. Or so we thought. In episode 1, Naomi from The Real World Las Vegas 2011 got a phone call from back home letting her know that her father was in the hospital after he had a heart failure. Naomi would withdraw from the game, leaving Heather Cook without a partner. That is until TJ had something up his sleeve. Or should I say someone? And I'm talking about Cara Maria. Cara Maria would join the season right before the Triple X Games. During her walk-up, she didn't get the warmest of welcomes from the cast.
This just blows.
She is the stupidest creature on Earth. Cara Maria. Womp, womp, womp.
We learned that Cara Maria and Heather Cook were rivals because of a few exchanges on Twitter, which honestly is par for the course when it comes to some of the pairs on Rivals 2. Despite their Twitter beef, Cara and Cook were an incredible duo, where their only weakness was Cara's swimming.
Cara, stop panicking.
Cara Maria entered the game in episode 2 and would see an elimination game the very same episode to play Hanging by a Thread versus Anastasia and Jessica. Cara and Cook would win, but that would be the first of many trips to the jungle for them. The duo was voted in again in episode 4, but wouldn't have to compete thanks to Trishelle quitting in the previous episode. They would then get last place in episode 8 and win against Nani and Janae. And finally, they'd come up with a clutch win in color correction, saving them from the last elimination of the season. If Cara and Cook hadn't won, they were for sure going to be sent in again. That's right, Cara had found herself back to the finals. She hadn't been back to the final since the last Rivals back in 2011. And just like the first Rival season, Cara was going to have to run against Paula, who was tethered to another extremely strong partner. Paula and Emily were a juggernaut on Rivals 2. They won 6 daily challenges on the season, never saw a single elimination, and basically waltzed into the finals. One of the most dominating pair performances in a single season. But their dominance would be tested as Cara Maria and Cook took an early lead in the Rivals 2 finals. Paula and Emily would work their tails off to get a lead in the finals and not give it up.
We lose based on my life.
Paula and Emily would go on to win Rivals 2. Cara and Cook would lock in second place. One could be frustrated with yet another second place finish. It was Cara's third in 6 seasons, but Cara was happy with her and Cook's performance. It was great to have had a chance to play in the finals after 2 early exits in the past 2 seasons. Also, Cara Maria showed us more on the season in terms of her physicality and working out. She brought in more self-confidence and it helped her perform, especially in eliminations. Free Agents is looked at as one of, if not the best season in the challenge's history, and is the biggest turning point in Cara Maria's challenge journey as well. Cara Maria came in with the most friends she's ever had coming onto a season at the time, the 2 biggest notables being CT and Laurel. Now, the format of the season was individual gameplay, with the daily challenges varying whether they would be played as individuals, pairs, or teams. Cara Maria was looked at as an asset, well insulated and physically strong. Cara Maria seemed to be in a good position in the game. That is, except for how eliminations were designed this season. The format to decide who would go into eliminations was that the winning players would decide 2 people to send directly into elimination, and whoever didn't perform as well in the dailies would take place in the draw. One by one, players would be called to flip over a piece of wood on a board. If the wood was blank, the player would be safe, but flip over a skull, known as the kill card, and you were playing in the elimination game that episode. Cara Maria found herself in 5 draws this season, where she'd flip over the kill card 3 times. This season, Cara showed everyone her fight, her will, and her drive to win. Cara Maria's first 2 instances in the draw yielded no elimination game. However, in episode 3, Cara would be put to the test against Naya. Naya was taller, bigger, and very athletic. Cara had been training and is a veteran in the game compared to the rookie, but it's hard not to see the size difference where it was a David versus Goliath battle. They would play the elimination game called Looper, where both players would be tethered together but have to run in opposite directions to ring a bell on their side of the elimination floor. First to ring their bell wins. Despite a significant height and weight difference, Cara dug in her heels and went for broke. Both competitors went over an hour, making it a stalemate for the majority of the game. Cara Maria would moan in pain from time to time. Naya at a certain point said she couldn't breathe because of her harness. Still no woman would give up. Cara would chip away, digging for every inch until she was the one to ring the bell and get the victory. After that episode, the challenge producers would change the way the game was played, giving players rope at the bottom of each person's bell so as to not have every looper elimination go over an hour. There were no breaks for Cara as she found herself in the next draw the next episode. She drew the kill card for a second time. This elimination was a bit easier for her as she faced off against LaToya in the Oppenheimer, a Hall Brawl variance that Cara got the win with ease. The next 4 episodes, Cara got a breather from seeing an elimination or a draw. From episodes 5 to 8, Cara was on the winning teams for 2 of those episodes and did well enough in the other 2 that she didn't participate in the draws or was voted in by the power couples.
What is Muhammad Ali's real name?
Mahatma Gandhi?
But over the course of the season, Cara Maria did lose something, and that was her friendship with Laurel. As I mentioned earlier, Cara and Laurel came into the season closer than they had ever been previously. It looked like the duo was going to take on the house and possibly get to the finals together. However, in the challenge house, not everything goes as planned. Laurel, with her intimidation factor, would have people want to be on her good side in case she did win. They wouldn't want to be her target. Laurel talked with so many people and she had deals with a lot of the house. During a talk about the game, Cara and Laurel had quite the misunderstanding. This was the first time for us as the audience to see a crack form between the two.
You don't get it. You don't understand. You're annoying. Don't speak.
Later on in the episode, we'd hear from Johnny Riley that Laurel would regularly speak rudely to Cara. By that time, Cara just had enough. She was done being talked to and treated like she had been by a so-called friend. As the two drifted apart, Laurel started a friendship with Jessica. Laurel and Jessica bonded over both their challenge flings, leaving the game early in the season. Watching a friend distance themselves from you and get closer with someone else is tough, but what was even tougher is sharing a room with that friend and your replacement. Jump to episode 9, where Cara Maria and Jessica would be paired up together in the Dug Out Daily Challenge. I mean, how perfect is that? After not winning the daily, Cara Maria would find herself in the draw flipping over the kill card for a third time that season. She would face off against Laurel's new best friend, Jessica, in a heated balls-in elimination. Again, how perfect is that? Cara would win, but it came at a cost. During one of the rounds, Cara Maria had hurt her hand. We can see her try to shake out her hand at one point after a round. Once the elimination was over and her adrenaline stopped pumping, Cara Maria's hand was really starting to hurt. She went to go get it checked out, where the medic told her that she needed to go to the hospital because she had possibly broken her wrist. Cara Maria started to cry, but not from the pain. She started to cry because she was worried about the diagnosis she'd get at the hospital, where it could lead to a medical disqualification. This was a tough season for Cara, but she didn't want to go. She'd rather be eliminated than be taken out due to an injury. The next day, Cara Maria came back to the house with her arm wrapped in her jacket to hide her cast. Cara Maria had given all she could, fought tooth and nail to get this deep into the season to be now pushed to a possible breaking point. Literally. Normally, any injury on the challenge, especially a broken appendage, is deemed a medical disqualification, but the challenge allowed Cara Maria to come back and continue to compete. Cara Maria was never going to give up, and her closest friend left in the game, CT, wasn't going to let her quit. In the crossover daily challenge, Cara Maria was a captain, and she was hesitant to pick CT. However, when it was her turn to pick, CT wanted to be paired up with Cara, cast and all. I feel like CT would have wanted to be paired up with Cara even if she had 2 casts on her arms. That's how much he believed in Cara Maria. They had the Boston connection, and he knew she wouldn't give up on him. And really, Cara was super impressive, giving another 110% in a daily challenge. She did everything in the challenge asked of her, and did it as good, if not better, than some of the competitors with 2 working hands. But unfortunately, Cara Maria and CT didn't win to keep themselves safe. Bananas and Nany went on to win, putting them in the power seat, which spelled bad news for both Cara Maria and CT. It was a relatively straightforward vote to send CT into elimination. On the other hand, voting in Cara Maria was a bit more of a split decision. Nany didn't want to vote for Cara. Nany felt bad for her with how hard she had fought on the season and now having a cast. But Bananas insisted that Cara Maria was the right vote. Eventually, Nany agreed. Both Cara Maria and CT were voted into the elimination. And again, some things just work out too perfectly, where Laurel flipped the kill card and the 2 ex-best friends would face off against each other, barring one from making it much closer to the finals. So sad for Cara though, as it looked like the deck was stacked against her. Not just because she was facing off against the most athletic woman left in the game, but she also was going into the Wrecking Wall elimination. In the Wrecking Wall elimination, both competitors would have to climb a wall, breaking handholds and footholds for them to use to get up the wall and ring a bell. Laurel had a height and wingspan advantage, as well as 2 working hands. Cara Maria would give it her all and never quit, just like she had all season. The only time she stopped was when TJ announced Laurel was the winner of the elimination. Cara Maria exited the season defeated, probably the most disappointing exit up to that point for her in her challenge career.
Did my best. I got nothing to be upset about. Just gotta train harder, be stronger, and come back better.
But honestly, Cara had every reason to be proud of her performance in Free Agents. This was a culmination of all of Cara's seasons, which led to an incredible performance. Cara showed determination, skill, athleticism, heart, willpower, confidence. The only thing she didn't have on her side this season was luck. But even without winning this season, Cara won something else that was probably more important: reputation. Many Cara Maria fans, or even challenge fans who wouldn't necessarily identify themselves as Cara fans, would cite her performance in Free Agents as otherworldly. She made people notice her in a way that gave her self-credibility. No more doubts, no more second-guessing her abilities. She was on the precipice of doing something and being someone great, being more than just Cara Maria, the underdog. Cara Maria would not participate in Season 26 Battle of the Exes 2, but would return for
Hi, I'm Cara Maria, and this is my cousin, Jeannie.